Tucker Carlson completely dismantled the narrative against Donald Trump in under 3 minutes. You guys have got to check this out.
Trump, it has nothing to do with his program. Trump's like the least radical person in the world. Trump's like completely moderate, actually.
Tucker Carlson, who I'm seeing this very week, had a lot to say about Google and Alphabet censorship, how YouTube functions now. Remember, most content creators are dependent on the revenue from programmatic advertising. If YouTube strangles videos, eventually they won't make those types of videos. What if YouTube routinely strangles videos that are oppositional to the centrist, globalist, bureaucratic current government that appear to want to increase censorship, surveillance, and all forms of control that appear to be divisive and pro-war, that don't want to admit that the alliance between Trump and Bobby Kennedy is exciting, bringing to the forefront of all of our minds issues like health, children's health, ending war, and free speech. These are the kind of issues that Kamala Harris could be owning. There's no reason that she can't do that at all. Let's have a look at Tucker Carlson talking about YouTube and Google censorship at one of his recent events.
The only people who are afraid of talking are people with something to hide. And what they're afraid of is that you might expose them. That's, of course, exactly why they hate Trump. It has nothing to do with his program. Trump's like the least radical person in the world. Trump's like completely moderate, actually. But that's not what they care about. What they care about is Trump's irrepressible tendency to say things that are not on the script. They don't trust Trump not to tell the truth. You know, you can write a 10,000-word speech for Trump, but you can't be certain that right in the middle of it, he won't be like, and another thing, and then tell the truth about you. So if you're trying to hide something really, really obvious, like, I don't know, you murdered Jeffrey Epstein or something, as if nobody knows. Really? Epstein didn't kill himself? Are you serious? Right. Everybody already knows that. But the people who did it are really worried and did a million other things. Oh, it wasn't safe and effective? Seriously? They're worried that Trump will just go off script and tell the truth. They are not worried. They're always like, oh, Trump's such a liar. He's such a liar. He bragged about his crowd size or his hands. Or it's like, no. That's not why you hate Trump. If he was a liar, you'd love him. You'd vote for him. No. You're worried that he will accidentally tell the truth about you.
I find it so funny because Donald Trump was one of the most loved guys in Hollywood. Then in 2016, he decided to take on the machine. I mean, you would have to be blind to not see it. These people, the elites, the establishment, the bureaucrats in charge of Washington, D.C., they are terrified of Donald Trump because he's not bought and sold. He's a man with a free mind. He says exactly what he thinks. Does that get him into trouble every now and then? Yes, it does. But people know that he's being authentic. He's true to himself. There's nobody pulling the strings behind Donald Trump. And in my lifetime, I have not experienced one politician who was unapologetically themselves. Because in Washington, D.C., there's always lobbyists, special interest groups, just people operating in the shadows, and Trump is a threat to all of them.
By showing the treatment that Donald Trump received from the media before he was a political figure, when he was just a run-of-the-mill billionaire tycoon with his own TV show. Back then, he was lauded by Oprah Winfrey. Back then, it was okay to like Donald Trump and his book, The Deal. Do you think that Donald Trump has, in the interim period, become some kind of radical white supremacist racist? Or do you think that, as Tucker Carlson just explained, that Trump, whether you like him or not, whether Trump's your cup of tea or the type of person you would usually vote for or not, is not the kind of malleable cipher required in the office of president? This is a pan-party requirement. George W. Bush, let's go to war in Iraq. Barack Obama, we're going to be ensuring that whoever created that crash back in 2008, it's ordinary people who get their houses foreclosed. The Clintons, they're fine. Donald Trump, maybe many things. But I think the problem is, as Tucker just described, not the fact that he is a liar or a racist or whatever, but that he is in fact difficult to control. To get further information on that, let's have a quick look at this conversation that he had with Oprah Winfrey way back in the giddy days where he didn't have any significant political power. Here it is. Let's have a look at it. Note how different and distinct and discreet the world seems way back then.
Last year, criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
Now, before we get into Oprah, Donald Trump, do you note that he's sort of, other than the advancing years, kind of similar back then to how he is now? Talking a lot about international trade, kind of pro-American and jingoistic, interested in competition, sort of person that might say, hey, if China don't respect these tariffs, there'll be a bloodbath when it comes to the issue of manufacture of cars in Mexico. The kind of guy that puts American interests first. I'll level with you. I'm not from a background where I look to tycoons and billionaires for the answers to my own personal or political problems. But I'm astute enough to see that what Donald Trump is a fly in the ointment, a spoke in the wheel of globalism. There is an attempt through bureaucracy and corporatism to create centralized control at a global level and to generate the legitimacy of citizen management at the smallest level. This can be done through crisis. What are crises for you and I, for example, the pandemic, are great opportunities for global powers, be they corporate or state, because they simultaneously offer the opportunity for profit and regulation. Now, Donald Trump doesn't seem to me back then, whenever that was, or right now, to be a sort of dew-eyed idealist, sort of wet behind the ears and just trying to build a better world. He seemed like a kind of tycoon, entrepreneur, America first, shoots from the hip kind of a person. Charismatic, fast, able to communicate with ordinary people without it seeming all weird, like he might say sausages instead of hostages, or make some weird giddy cackling noise. These are the kind of tells and ticks of bureaucrats. These are the bureaucrats that come up the way they like it, through the university system, through the WEF, and on their way to the top, who knows the many ways that they might be compromised. But the death of Epstein and the revelations of Diddy make you think that there might be 100 ways to control people that have got political power.
Donald Trump is not a politician. You could argue that Donald Trump is one of the most savvy businessmen of our time. He knows how to get stuff done and make deals. Whether it was the Jacobs Accord, whether it was Russia not moving an inch under Donald Trump's watch, whether it was meeting with North Korea, he knows how to get people together and unite. He knows how to find similarities rather than differences. And it's clear, back then in the Oprah interviews, he was cool, calm, collected. He was saying where America was going wrong. And that was not an opinion. That was a statistic. America was losing hundreds of billions of dollars every single year. A country cannot sustain that. Plain and simple, a country will cease to exist if it does not rectify those problems. America was just getting ripped off for years, and Donald Trump was sick of it because this country has given him so much that he wants to give back to the country. And I know exactly what the skeptics are going to say. Donald Trump was so calm there. Why did he get so loud and bombastic? Well, the truth of the matter is, Donald Trump would act like that every single day if the mainstream media and the press and all these organizations did not have a vendetta and a scope on his head 24/7. He's fighting against some evil forces, and if he does not fight back, he would have not survived this long in politics. He would have crumbled. You have to think, who's the one actually bringing the drama? Is it Trump or is it the press?
Seeing how Oprah Winfrey looked at the power and ambition of Donald Trump way back then.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. You know, they all went in there sort of as semi-underdogs, including George Bush, and they've all come out. I think people that are around all three of those candidates can be very proud of the jobs they've done.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined, I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing: this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
So he's not kind of like an extremist, is he? Like, I hate Dukakis and I hate Jesse Jackson, both Democrat candidates. Jesse Jackson, of course, a spiritual leader and a man of colour. Doesn't seem like he's sort of the guy that we hear about every single day. He's a racist, he's a rapist, he's the worst person imaginable. He has to be stopped at all costs. He's going to make himself dictator for life. You know, and because when they produce some evidential object for why we should believe that he was going to make himself dictator for life, it appears to be like some joke that he said to Sean Hannity, day one dictator, drill, drill, drill. You know, for me, this guy is an old school, entrepreneurial, tycoon type character, not a Adolf Hitler type character. And if he is so bad, how come the policies are being mimicked? Whether it's Kamala Harris building his wall, whether it's Barack Obama being the instigator of the cages for which he was so damned. It just doesn't make sense, does it? How can it be that they want their cake and eat it around policy, saying, yeah, we've got to do something about the border, a subject that he was talking about before? We've all been wrong about Trump in the past, but looking at Trump now, looking at Trump back then, and looking at the way the discourse around him has changed, suggests that what is happening is an attempt to ensure that a favoured candidate can maintain power. I don't want the state controlling me. I don't want the media lying to me. I don't want the judiciary weaponized against anyone that dissents. I don't want the tools of the state used to oppress and control ordinary Americans, ordinary British people, or ordinary French people, any ordinary people from anywhere. Minimal intervention from the state. Maximal control over corporations. How do you simultaneously achieve those two things? We'll work that out along the way. But what we cannot legitimize is mass globalism, the advance of corporatism, the further empowerment of the deep state. This has to be opposed, and in order to do it, we have to overlook our old prejudices and bigotry, take on the kind of principles that come to me quite easily through Christianity, i.e. we are all fallen, we are all redeemed, we are all worthy of love, we have no ability or right to judge one another, and we must oppose this centralized power that's acting like a god, except for when it comes to faith and decency and service and love and all the things that make a spiritual life.
America is the last bastion of freedom. If America falls, I believe the entire world falls to a global government, a one world government. And that's exactly why they hate Donald Trump so much. Donald Trump is all about nationalism, pride in America, pride in who you are, your culture. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Donald Trump is a perfect human being, because he's not, I'm not, you're not. Nobody's a perfect human being. But when it comes down to getting stuff done and improving the quality of life that we have, I don't think this is a question. This is a no-brainer election. Primarily because Kamala doesn't even have policies. She's only copying Donald Trump's policies right now because it's favorable. You think most Americans as a whole want to be invaded by tens of millions of people every single year, dilute what it means to be an American citizen, pay more in taxes, have less money in your pocket, live in a much more dangerous world? No, that's stupid. That's stupid policy. Kamala has no intention of actually following through on this policy. The only reason she's adopting Donald Trump's policy because it will help her chances of winning the election. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. What do you think? Do you think America will still be here 50 years from now? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.